Are your concepts of Christianity based on truth or tradition? Hi, and welcome to Simply Christ, where we make Jesus Christ our master and we explore the depths and the mysteries of the spiritual realm. Thank you for joining us. Please make sure to subscribe. Also, like this video, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. Is your idea, your concept of Christianity based on reality? You know, there are many strange ideas and concepts of what Christianity is. And a lot of that is based upon what someone teaches us, maybe something we've read about from a book, maybe even it's our looking at the Bible and maybe not quite understanding something that it's saying, and so we develop our ideas and concepts. And from there, we develop many of our ideas. Now, this is whether you're a Christian, a follower of the way, if you've seen our first video, or even if you're not a Christian, just a person who's an agnostic, an atheist, or someone that follows a different belief. We all have these ideas, and it's true because Christians have ideas of other religions that are not even true in and of themselves. So it kind of goes both ways, and I totally understand that. But what I want to do today is I want to look at some of the myths and some of the understandings and concepts and ideas we have of Christianity and kind of maybe put some dynamite to them. And I have several notes here we're going to look at. We're going to look at a scripture, and we're going to look at some things here that I think might interest you and maybe reshape some of the things you may have been taught. Now, I will warn you, there are some things in which you may look at and you go, this is kind of weird, this is kind of bizarre, this is kind of strange. I wasn't ever taught this, or this might go against some of the things I have been taught. But that's okay. We're not talking about things that are so radical. We still believe Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God. In fact, that's what this channel is all about. It's about making Jesus Christ our master. Simply Christ. I mean, what else can we do and what else can we say to make this more about Jesus? Even in our title, it's simply Christ. We believe in Jesus. We believe He is the Son, and He is the fullest representation of God. But what about the rest of the Scriptures? What about all the things that we have been taught in Bible class ever since we were a little kid, all the way to where we are even as adults? I've been in many churches, and I was even raised in a church in which I was taught things which are far from the truth. It was based more on a tradition than anything of reality. And then when I started finding out some things, I started discovering that, you know what, it's really not what I have been taught. Now, does it mean that those people who taught me these things are all wrong and they're all going to hell? No, we're not talking about that. What we want to do is look at reality. We let God judge the things of what's going to happen. It's His kingdom, not mine, not yours. It's His kingdom. Our desire should be to want to please our Father and discover more about Him. Not that we are always going to understand everything about God, but the more we find, the more that we discover about Jesus, we discover about God, we are now delving into the mysteries of that spiritual realm, and it opens up a door into a realm that God has invited you and I to be in. So let's begin by looking at some of the myths that some people have. First of all, one of the myths that people have in the concepts is about who God is. Now, I can talk for the next 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, to the end of my life about who God is. But suffice to say right now, for the purposes of this video, God is not an old man with a long white beard sitting on a very uncomfortable white marble chair in heaven, where He has Jesus, kind of his sidekick, and we have this Holy Spirit who's kind of like Casper the Friendly Ghost, who's out somewhere in the world doing things that none of us really know what He does. We pull scriptures that say things like He convicts men of their sins, convicts the world of their sins. But what does that mean? Well, let's don't really talk about that because we really don't know, and He's kind of a weird thing, strange thing we really don't understand. And so people leave it at that and they go on. And believe me, I have sat, and I know you too have sat in Bible classes where these kind of things happen. It doesn't have to be that way. So we have this idea of God, who we think He is, which really isn't true. Another part that we have about God is that, while God loves us, He really doesn't like us very much. In other words, he's kind of up there in heaven, and he's looking down with this stern look on his face, on the edge of his white marble chair, of course. That's very uncomfortable. Or maybe perhaps on the edge of a cloud, and he's looking down at us, and he's really mad at us, and he's really upset with us, kind of like the father that he's really angry with his kids, always wants to beat them. But then here's Jesus on the side saying, no, God, don't beat them up. That's okay. Don't. And Jesus kind of turns out to be kind of like the older brother who's always trying to pacify the father, because the father is so mad that you don't know what he's going to do. And he's ready to send everybody into hell. And Jesus' job is to prevent the father from throwing everybody into hell, and to pacify God, and to keep him from being too angry. And so we have this idea of that what we really want to try to do is that if we're nice enough and we believe in Jesus, that we will go to heaven, which leads me to the third point. What is heaven? Another myth that we have is this misconception that heaven is this place where it's all white clouds, and we're all wearing white robes, and we're all wearing halos, of course. We might have wings. The real good people have wings. And we're all playing the harp, of course. And if we're not playing the harp, then we're really singing a lot of boring praise and worship songs. Kind of like the music worship leader that I had one time tell me that heaven is going to be eternal praise and worship music. And that's all we're ever going to do is just sit there and sing songs for an eternity. So that means for right at the end of our death, for 100 billion trillion years, it would be just as if we're beginning the same verse of the latest praise and worship band. And of course, he was telling me that him as a praise and worship leader would be there in front guiding the masses to sing songs to God. It sounds a little narcissistic if you ask me, and I don't mean to be so flippant, but I don't think that is what Christianity is. Now, again, nothing wrong with praise and worship music, none of those things, but it's our idea of what heaven is. And then there's this place called hell. And hell is the place where it's all volcanic ash, or not volcanic ash, but volcanic lava. Now, the bad people get to go to hell. And something kind of like out of Lord of the Rings, you know, where Frodo and them go, and then Gollum falls into the lava, and he's melting, chasing this ring. And anyways, that's what the eternity will be, in rivers of lava, screaming in agony forever and ever and ever. And if we're not being agonized enough, there are people who are demons, or beings, I should say, that have a long pitchfork, and they're wearing red suits, of course, and they're poking people. And you try to get out, well, they push you back in. And if they miss you with the pitchfork, then they'll get you with their long pointed tails. And if that doesn't work, they'll hit you with the horns on their head. And that's the idea of heaven and hell. So the whole concept of Christianity many people have is basically be good. Don't make the Father angry, because he's already mad enough, and he's ready to throw everybody into hell. And now, since everybody's going to be thrown into hell, you don't want to go to the place over there where there is the man with the red suit. And heaven is kind of this boring place also, where I'm going to sit around for an eternity singing songs or sitting on the edge of a cloud. There's a little booklet sometime, I'm probably going to talk to you about it. It's a little tiny booklet printed, and it's called A Problem Called Heaven. And the name, don't let the name fool you. He's not saying heaven is a problem, but it's our ideas of heaven. And one of the stories in there is about a man who was talking about how he was giving a sermon on heaven and talking about how heaven is this place with white clouds and so forth. And he was standing at the edge of the end of the sermon at the door, shaking hands of everybody, and everybody was telling him how great of a sermon it was. And this little old lady came up to him in tears. And he was thinking that, oh, she's going to tell me, oh, it was just so moving. And she started, crying, and she told him, she said, that was a terrible sermon. She said, I don't want to go to heaven. It sounds like a gaudy place. Streets of gold, pearls and mansions. And this man says he was taken back, and he said, well, why? Isn't that what you want to go to? She goes, no, that's gaudy. Give me the mountains, a stream. Give me a place where I can watch a waterfall. Give me a valley I can see. Give me the peak of a Himalayan mountaintop, or a peak of the Himalayan mountain. Give me a river. Give me the ocean. Give me the desert. Give me the jungle where I can contemplate and be close and think about God. And that got him writing that little book, just a very tiny book. We'll talk about it sometime. But my point is, do you see where we get the idea and the concepts that we have about Christianity? But where do we get them from? Where do we get these ideas from? Well, a lot of them come from Dante's Inferno and places from the Middle Ages or the times of the Middle Ages, and even up to the Reformation, where we have these concepts that were developed from the medieval times and even in the times of the 15, 16, maybe even into the 1700s, but mostly in the Middle Ages. And one of the big ones, of course, is from Dante's Inferno. And Dante's Inferno, if you get a chance to read that, you'll find out that many of our belief systems come from heaven and hell and God and how everything works from those kind of writings and those kind of teachings. I hate to break it to you, but God is not sitting on the edge of a very uncomfortable marble chair. He's not mad at everybody, sending everybody to hell. Jesus isn't spending his time sitting on the right-hand side of God saying, God, don't be mad. And the Holy Spirit is not going around like Casper the Friendly Ghost, making sure he's doing what he's supposed to do that nobody knows. That's not the gospel. That is not the message, not at all. Another reason that we have is that people do not understand things from an ancient world view. And that, my friends, is crucial. It's absolutely essential in understanding what our scriptures, about what these writings are, what the Hebrew was, what the Greek was, what the Aramaic was trying to say. All these things, these ancient cultures understood what words and phrases meant. They spoke highly symbolically. Now, I know many of you who are in the audience are from India, you're from Asia, you're from Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, you're from different parts of the world in the East. And you know what I'm talking about on this, don't you? Many times things are put in a symbolic way because people can understand them more that way, especially in the ancient world where people did not write things very much. They memorized things. That's how things were passed down. Oral tradition. In fact, the average Hebrew young man from up to the age of about 10, maybe 12, I have my dates wrong, was memorized the Pentateuch. They memorized the first 5 books of the Old Testament. Now imagine, 10 years old, you're memorizing the first 5 books. But not only are you memorizing the first 5 books, you are memorizing it and knowing the inflection of the word Yahweh for God. So whenever that person was reciting that, they had to pronounce it exactly the way it was stated in that. So it's not just memorizing words, it's memorizing the inflection. That's how ancient people understood things. That's how deep they got into things. And their world was influenced by many other cultures, many other religions at that time in the Old Testament. So we don't look at things, unfortunately, from the way ancients do. We don't look at things in the way maybe that they understood things. Instead, we approach things, typically in the West, from a Western viewpoint. We look at things and interpret things based upon the words and the structures and our ideas of what reality is, and we try to apply those to the Bible, and that's why we run across so many problems. We don't have a quite good understanding of how things were structured maybe in Hebrew or Greek. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be a Hebrew or Greek scholar to be a follower of Jesus. Why? Because in our very first video, we said that being a follower of Jesus is a spiritual discipleship. It's about a spiritual lifestyle. It's about being changed into people who are peaceful, faithful, loving, kind, gentle, and being taken back to the way things were supposed to be. The spiritual life, it's all about. It's not about our intellectual drive. Go back and look at the first video, and also check out our podcast. We have them on Apple, Spotify, different places. We talk about some of those in more depth. But to suffice to say, you don't have to know Hebrew and Greek. You just have to have a desire to love God, to love Jesus. When you love God, He reveals Himself more to you. Remember, ask, seek, knock. Ask, it will be given. Seek, you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened. That's what this is about. But if we want to understand Christian concepts or let's call it this way, the way, because little rabbit trail here, hope you don't mind, but I hate using terminology that sounds so Christianese because they're so loaded. For instance, just the word Christian is so loaded in society. People roll their eyes. Oh, Christians, that means you believe this, 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 and this. No, it doesn't mean I believe this, this, and this. I don't believe that. You think I believe that because that's what you've been taught Christians believe, and some do. But I don't like using, these Christianese language and all these kind of things. I want us to understand things in a simple way, simply Christ. So, again, understand that the truths that we have, or what we consider ideas of truth, are not necessarily true in and of themselves. We have to disregard in ideas and phrases that we use and so forth because we have to understand that Christianity is not a religion. In fact, I would even say it's not even a relationship in the way, now hear me out here, in the way that we typically think of a relationship. Meaning that I have a good relationship. Why? Because I went to church services and I cried at the song, which means I really love Jesus, so I have a close, meaningful relationship with Him because I feel Him in my heart. It's not that feelings are not important, but a relationship is not based on feeling. It's knowing the characteristics of the person you have a relationship with, their likes and their dislikes. If I have a relationship with somebody, I'm going to know about that person's characteristics, the things that they like, the things that doesn't please them, what makes them very happy. It's the same way with God. It's the same way in the spiritual world with God the Spirit. What do I know about Him? How do I know? How do I relate to Him? Do I talk? Do I converse with Him? Just because I go to a church and study or sing great songs doesn't mean I have a close relationship no matter what I feel in my heart, because it's not about the feeling part of it. It's about the relational part of it in the way of knowing that person, knowing that being. That's what I mean by the relationship with that. So we have to understand it's not a religion, but this is what it really is about. It's about a spiritual realignment to the way things were in the past, long ago, long time ago. And we're going to talk about that right now. So let's look at some truths. Number one, it all began prior, really, to the creation of this world. The whole concept of Christianity, of what we call Christianity of the way, is not something that took place from just the last 2,000 years. It's not something that we have developed just through some type of church structure. We have to understand that it took place from the beginning of creation. God is a spirit, and He has this heavenly council, this heavenly realm, this council. Now, you might be raising your eyebrow like, what are you talking about here, right? Go read Psalms chapter 82. Read that first several verses of that. Then you'll see what I'm talking about. But He has this holy council, with God being the supreme and ultimate Elohim, the ultimate spirit. He's the ultimate. He's the fullness. He alone is all-powerful. He alone is the God. He is God. So go back. That's for another discussion, but I want you to read that in Psalms 82, and you see what I'm talking about here. So all this in the beginning, where God created this entire realm. So what God is saying, and what He wanted to do by His desire to create this earth, is He wanted to take the things that were in the realm, the spiritual realm, and do the same things on earth. And humankind were going to be the ones to do it. You and I were going to do the same jobs as the spiritual beings that are in the heavenly spiritual realms. That is what God was doing. And then comes the fall, okay? If you really think about that, but before we get to the fall, just one more note here. I want you to understand something. Many people think that Christianity is an offshoot of Judaism. In fact, many people, many Jews, saw them as a sect of Judaism. But they didn't quite understand what it was really all about. In fact, many people today still think that, and they think that it's part of an Abrahamic religion. In fact, Christianity is often called an Abrahamic religion. Now, if you look at it in a religious sense, Call it whatever you want to. But I'm here to tell you it's not even that. It is a spiritual movement taking us back to the beginning of creation because, believe it or not, there were things going on before Isaac and before Israel was ever established. There was Abraham, was there not? Not only that, there was Enoch. And what does it say about Enoch? It says, Enoch, God walked with Enoch. Enoch walked with God. So when we go back and we look, we have to understand that all these things took place prior to, long before anything of Judaism. That's why it's a spiritual movement. There's Melchizedek, and there's not much that's written in the early parts of Genesis. You have Noah, who found grace in the eyes of God, and grace meaning the power that is given to us through the Spirit to accomplish the things He wants us and has designed for us to do. Talk about grace in another lesson. But the understanding that Noah found the power to move in God before there was even a nation of Israel, before there was even Abraham, before there was Jesus, of course. So what motivated these people? There was a relationship that was going on there, but what was it? Christianity is about going back to that. But see, when God created that, there's the fall. There's the fall in Eden, of course, with Adam and Eve. But there's another fall, and I want you to read about it here, and it's in Genesis chapter 6. When humankind began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humankind were beautiful. Thus they took wives for themselves from any they chose. Let me read that again now. Look at that last part here, this section here. The daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw that who? The daughters of humankind were beautiful. Thus they took wives for themselves from any that they chose. Now this is a very controversial concept to many people, especially in Christianity. Look at that and go, what are you talking about? You'll find much of this in the book of Enoch as well. Book of Enoch is not necessarily in our Old Testament canon, and there's a lot of discussion about whether it should be. Right now, it's not, so we won't do that. But the New Testament writers and even Jews of that time relied heavily on the book of Enoch. They understood the concepts that were written in the book of Enoch. For a very good description of that, go check out some of Dr. Michael Heiser's videos here on YouTube, and even his podcast, who describes that. I'm telling you, I promise you, it is completely mind-blowing. Now, it's going to go against maybe a tradition, but it's certainly a very, very, very biblical view, and one that totally supports Jesus and who Jesus is. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of those things. Go check it out and see what it is. So understand that God continues using humans, even though we have the free will, to continue doing those things. But it's only in part that we're doing them. The Mosaic Law comes across, and what happens now is that God takes the faith of Abraham, not the faith of Isaac and Moses and all those individuals, but He takes Abraham, who's not even a Jew. And then from there, He says that through your offspring, all the nations will be blessed. And then what happens is God chooses the nation of Israel to deliver this Messiah. See, now this is going to come controversial to some of you. When it says that Jews are God's chosen people, my first question is chosen for what? Many people think that where Jews are God's chosen people, that means that Jews are His favorite kid. Kind of like, oh, I got a favorite son over here, and that favorite son can do no wrong. It doesn't matter, I'm always going to like them. Yeah, they can go rob a bank or go blow up a building. It doesn't matter. I still love them no matter what. And that other guy, I know he's a good kid, but I really don't care for him. That's many people's idea. My question is, you're chosen. Well, chosen for what? If my Father chooses me to do something, He's choosing me to accomplish something. My belief is that being chosen is they're chosen to bring in the Messiah. It's a great honor. What a fantastic honor that God is choosing you for whatever reasons, we can discuss other times, but He's choosing them to bring in the Messiah. So what's taking place is God is still using humans and people, and He's going through the way He wants to delivers it to the world to bring the fullness of what His entire purpose is. Jesus, God on earth in human form, which is one of the questions people have always asked throughout history of mankind. Who is God? What is He like? What does He want? What does He not want? If we could only see God. In fact, one of Jesus' disciples finally asked Jesus, said, won't you just show us the Father and we'll be content? Now, paraphrasing, Jesus' response was, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. You know what the Father expects. I am divinity on earth. I've come to reveal God. I'm here as the representative of the Father. I am God. And Jesus says that. Jesus is very adamant at who He is in His relationship with the Father. So understand that this answers that. What happens is Jesus shows the Spirit comes into our lives, into all of us, to take us back to that place in the very, very beginning, what it was supposed to be like, to continue the work and begin the work and do the work that we were originally supposed to do. And the originally was supposed to do is to do the things on this earth that the sons of God are doing in the heavenly realms, but here on earth. That's the way God set it up. God is not up in some heavenly realm saying, I'm bored today. I think I'll make an earth because I don't have much going on. I'm kind of lonely. So I'll make all these planets. Here's one. I'll put some people on it. Now, they don't like me, so hopefully I'll send my son and maybe somebody will like me afterwards. That is not the concept of Christianity. If that's what you've been taught, don't. If you're a person who believes that and think that's what Christianity is, that's not what it is either. That is not the belief system of what's ever taught anywhere in even the Gospels or even in the Old Testament. See, the Old Testament writers understood it more, maybe even more than what most Christians do, and they probably do. See, Jesus is God on earth in human form, pours out His Spirit. And it's not about just so we can go to heaven when we die. That's not what this really is about. It's not about, so many people focus their life upon, am I going to go to hell? Am I going to go to heaven when you die? That's not what this is about. Now, I'm not saying there's no heaven or no hell. No. But if that's what our focus is, we're missing the point of what the gospel really is. And that gospel is that God is inviting us to partake in what was originally supposed to do. What an honor that is that when we become a follower of Jesus, we make Him our master. He's saying, come explore the spiritual realm. Let me show you what your purpose is. Let me show you this mission that I have for you on this earth that's been accomplished, or that I want you to accomplish because it has been assigned to you. And that is to do God's will. It's always from the very beginning. That's what it has always been. That's the message of what Christianity really is. So those are just some of the myths, some of the concepts. I know we'll discover and discuss more of these things, so don't worry about it. But these are the ones that I've been thinking about, that have been coming across my mind lately, that from the people that I run across, this is what they believe, this is what they think. And it's unfortunate because that's not what this is truly all about. So next time what we're going to do, we're going to look at some of the promises made by Jesus. There are some really neat ones, meaning not just all the promises, but when Jesus comes to this earth and He's here, why is He here? Not just to introduce us to say, okay, I'm here, I'm the Son of God, now I need to be executed so you can go to heaven. But what is He offering us? What does He offer you? What does He offer me? What's He offering the world? There's a lot to do and a lot to discuss on that. Until next time, make sure you subscribe, make sure to share, make sure to like, make sure to comment. I appreciate what you're doing and everything that you do. Check out our website, simplychrist.org, and our podcasts. Until next time, God bless, and we'll see you next time.